So as we bring the meeting, I'd like to introduce two members to our board, and the last that's been approved and everything, Jeremy and Sharon. I'm sorry, Phil Blake. Thank you. Welcome to us.
You want to give your speech first?
But thank you, and thank your board for sending you down. We appreciate your help and guidance, and please be outspoken. That's what we're looking for. So let's call to order the regular meeting. The board minutes from November board meeting are in there. You had a chance to read through them and everything. Anybody have any questions?
You guys didn't have a meeting in December, so.
We had a meeting in November. We didn't have a December, right? It was November. I'll entertain a motion then.
So make the motion, we approve the minutes in November.
I'll second. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries then. Then for the treasurer's report, Mary, you gonna take us care of that?
So being that you didn't have a meeting in December, you have your November and your December financials in your packet. I'll just briefly go over what we have. So in November, you had your third quarter funding for CDC for $34,879.25. Paid your QuickBooks and Evergy. And then we paid the legal Wanna Reader $400. And T3 SiteWorks, we paid them $13.25, and that was for the final cut of the season with them. In December. Then you had interest from Mutual $29.17.41, and then the bank interest was $15.75 for November. If you look at the December, any questions on November? If not, with December, we transferred $1,500 from the big account to the small account. And that's so that I can pay the accountant and all of them out of the small account and Evergy. And then you have, of course, your fourth quarter funding for LCBC of $34,879.25. QuickBooks, Evergy used $43.31. Then you had your bank charges, and then T3 SiteWorks, there was an $11.50 payment, and that is from an invoice that he was supposed to send in October, but he didn't. And so we ended up having to pay that. So as far as your park maintenance and stuff, you're done for the year, for last year. On the CD interest, we had Mutual, 1803.70. First Security was 2535.89, and then we had some interest on the bank account for $9.72. And that's it for December.
A question for you while we're on the financial, do we have to put all of the maintenance and everything out for bid in the coming year? And if so, when does that occur?
No, he will reach out to us sometime probably in March or April.
Okay.
So.
Very good question.
Yes.
On the certificates of deposit, is the amount that's showing on the statement of assets, is that the deposit amount or is that the mature?
That's the mature.
Mature.
Okay, no further questions. I'll entertain a motion.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman, just on the land, have we concluded that land repurchase from IST?
We're getting close. So
Okay.
I understand on one document, and aren't we all glad that we started early on that? That document has been provided. So certainly by the next meeting, if not before, we should be able to conclude that.
Very good. Thank you.
Motion?
I'll make the financial report.
Second. Very second. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving forward. I guess we hand it over to you, Lisa. Well,
Yes. Transportation.
Regional transportation plan. I don't think we have anybody sitting currently on that, right? Okay. Industrial Site Committee? Nope, have nothing to report from there. Then, okay, we'll hand it over to Lisa. Or
I
Miss,
think I'm missing is it supposed to say like LCDCE?
It does.
Okay, so just pretend it says the LPDC Economic Development Report and the projects and leads. I'll start with the projects and leads, and in your December projects and leads, however, I had 2 more come in, so I'll talk a little bit about those. As you know, and you might have heard us talk about kind of a relatively slow year, but then as the fall came in, it seemed like it picked up pretty quickly. We were hearing the same thing was happening with our colleagues around the nation. And then it just kept getting, coming and coming. So Project Ryan, this was a heavy manufacturer that needed a 200-acre greenfield site. That means a site that's already ready for development or something to be built on it. We did not have that, so we did not submit. Another real estate search for an existing building of 150,000 square foot to 250,000 square feet. Existing building, we did not have that. We did not submit. I do keep track of those so that if we have the ability to look at potentially building one, we have some data to make decisions on. Project Goose, this came in on the 4th of December and was due on the 8th, and there was a weekend in between. So just pointing out that sometimes you have a couple of days to gather information from all kinds of partners. And we did go ahead and submit the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park. I just want to say to my partners at the city and at my utilities that I have to reach out to, I just really appreciate them being so understanding that I need this information and I need it now if I can get it. So that was a pretty intense project submittal, but we submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park to be considered for that. Project Culture is a local, it's a person that owns an existing business but is looking for a new opportunity. And this is more of an event space, venue space. So we are providing connections to each of the communities on that one. The 2 other that came in December was Project Connection. This was a service based company looking for other options for lease. And so we're doing the same with that, providing some contacts that they can reach out to in the communities. And then Project Next was one where one of our local developers asked me to come meet with a client, and they are just looking at options for a place to build a building that would be like an incubator space for those companies that are getting ready to take next steps. And they were interested in what was available at the Urban Hess. I didn't know till I got to the meeting what they were looking at. It was turned out to be the Urban Hess Business Center. However, it's very, very preliminary. They're just kind of considering their options at this point. So we've established connection and hopefully they'll reach back out to me. The only ongoing one on this that I'd like to mention is Project Cocoon. This was is a KC area company interested in expanding in this area that we are in. And I have had an initial meeting with a gentleman from the company, and then he introduced me to a second executive on their staff, and we have now had our meeting, and we've provided them 10 potential sites. The project is one of 2 things. It could be a small retail, or it could be a larger retail /service /warehouse. And so we did work with the 3 communities and provided 10 different sites. And so they are now reviewing all of those sites. They've actually come in and driven around. He told me at the meeting the last time we talked. And so he said this could move very slow or it could move very fast. We are not the only community that they're looking at, so we'll just have to be patient. We did establish that if I don't hear from them, I'll reach out to them once a month and just check in with them. So because of the 2 new projects that are not on this list, the total number of project leads that we got were 60. So we surpassed last year's. And then of those, 35 of them became prospects. That means that we started working on some of those or submitted. And then of those, 22 are still active. I think that's talked about, oh, in January, I did have a couple in January already that have come in. One of them was a Kansas City Area Development Council. They're working with a client that's looking for 40 acres for a to build a spec building or build an industrial park. So we have submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park and a city-owned park in Tonganoxie for that opportunity. And then finally, Project Cobra came in, this came in from the state. They're a manufacturer of components for the aerospace and defense industry. And we're submitting a privately owned property in Lansing, and we have a site visit with them this week. And then also their submittal is all due on Friday. So that one's pretty active, or really active. Unless you have any other questions, I have a couple more things to talk about, not about projects. Is that all right? Okay. November, I was just gonna say I wasn't here. I feel like it's been a long time because I wasn't here in November. And then we didn't have a meeting in December. But in November, LCDC hired a consultant and she is helping us to put together a strategic plan for us going forward, especially in light of our funding issues. And she's helped us put that strategic plan together, but also look at our internal processes and looking at ways at how we can be more efficient. So we've been working with her, we've met with the cities, and we've, hopefully we'll have that strategic plan approved in the next month, and we can, share a little bit more about that. And in December, we just spent a lot of time wrapping up the year. Mary works herself to death on the annual meeting, and I felt like it was really well. It was on Friday. We had a record number of reservations, 158. We're still looking to see, only a few didn't show up. That happens every year. But it was a full house, and we had all three cities there, and we had county commissioners there as well. So we appreciate everybody.
Lisa, it was well done, Mary.
Thank you.
Whoever involved that was really well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we had a great speaker, Jeremy Hill. He's an economist and vice president of Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. Is very unusual. He can make economics very interesting. And so at the board meeting, we reappointed 6 board members. We appointed a new one, Kim Heckman from Central Bag Company. And since we have one of our executive committee members rolling off this year, they appointed another one, which is Dave Voderick. And then the other thing I was going to mention is that we, one of the things that our consultant recommended was the use of interns. I mean, we are not obviously going to be able to hire a third person again. So we're looking into that. We've kind of thought about that before, but this kind of really pushed us to get it done. And so we had an intern with us over the holidays just for a few weeks. And it was fantastic. She helped us organize the files in our public drive. She looked at our website, identified all the broken links that we can pass on to our developer that can help us. She created some marketing brochures, and she updated the listings, the building listings in our property database. So, and then she also helped a lot at the annual meeting. So
What's her name?
Annie Voderick.
That's what I thought. That family, it doesn't surprise me. She's a go-getter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we put in intern descriptions and requests at the University of St. Mary too.
Yeah,
We're
that's
working on
awesome.
that.
Great.
Because we'd like to have them anytime during the year. We can always find something for them to do. So we appreciate that. And then finally, I think the only thing that's on my calendar right now besides project activity is the KEDA, Kansas Economic Development Alliance, Day on the Hill. And so we'll be going to that on February 3rd. This is when all the economic developers in the state go up to there, and we get a chance to talk to our legislators. We have them come down for lunch, and then we get an update sometimes from Lieutenant Governor. So, and that's the end of my report.
Got any questions for Lisa? All right. Next on the agenda then would be the education campaign.
So back to me.
Yeah, back to you. I'll fill in where necessary.
Mary, do you mind pulling up that So as you know, we've been working, the Port Authority had hired the Golden Shovel Agency to conduct an education campaign. After the county commissioners indicated that the Port Authority needs to find other sources of funding. And so, what they did is they came in and they did a survey to find out what, would there be interest, would there the willingness to publicly vote a portion of a mill that would go directly to the Port Authority. And that survey came back basically saying, we want to see new economic development initiatives, but we don't want to pay for it. And so the Golden Shovel Agency said, well, we need to do an education campaign because there's obviously a lot of confusion about what the Port Authority does, what LCDC does, but more of the Port Authority. And so they have been doing some basically social media, Google ads, all kinds of, they've done some articles, things like that, that they have tried to help the community to understand the work that we do. And so recently, well, we've been meeting with them every month to kind of get an update. And this is one of the things they give us. They give us, they do, I can't remember, I think it's 3 or 4 a week Facebook ads. And so you can see the numbers up there, how many impressions, the reach, the clicks, the click-through rate. That's all data that helps measure the success or, the information getting out there. You can see that the people that it's reaching, about half and half for between women and men. And then, of course, the age group is mostly over 65. So, Mary, will you scroll down the next? This is the other one. It's for Google Ads update. And this is kind of a newer thing. We got to be the first ones they've done on this. So when you are watching a video somewhere online and you might see an ad, that's where those Google ads are being put. And so you can see the numbers there. The impressions are a pretty large number. This is December's dashboard, so that means the education campaign is about 75% complete at this point. And what our last conversation we had with them, we talked about, should you all consider hiring them to do another survey to see if the needle has been moved? Should you go ahead with the going ahead and putting it to the vote to see if that would work? And they are recommending that, number one, that you do not pursue the vote at this time. They don't think the needle has been moved enough. What they are recommending is that you continue with the education campaign for another year or however many months. There is a proposal in your packet for the board members that indicates what that would include, which is basically what they've been providing, but continued. And it's again another $30,000. And so that is something that you guys can talk about and decide if you want to make a decision on that today. That's where we are.
But when does that do? That's not due till March, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we can actually make an action item note for next month on this. For those of you that may be new to this, what this is was a campaign to reach out to voters in Leavenworth County so that we could get part of that mill levy, as she just described. We were tasked by the county commissioners about a year ago now that they weren't going to provide us funding anymore, so we were going to go directly to public. And what we did was hire this group that's their expertise. They've done this in various areas of the country to educate the voters, to convince them this should be a smart thing to do, would be to pay part of the mill levy to the county commission. But in fact, to continue our economic development efforts, as I believe was brought forth in the meeting, and I unfortunately missed. We turn over elected officials on a regular basis. But the backbone of economic development has always fallen on the shoulders of LCDC and the Port Authority for years. But without funding, we can't continue to do that. My feeling, just as a member of the board, not necessarily as the chair, is I'd like to continue with the education campaign because we are making some headway, but we always knew it was going to be a long shot. Having said that, we also would look forward to maybe the next election cycle with county commissioners to convince them to come out and support it too. I think if they're gonna tell us we have to find our own funding source, we need their support when we come up with that source. And need them to help us to get that funding to continue the work that not just LPA does, but LCDC does. But that's just my opinion, it's just one member of the board, but anybody else?
I think I think you hit it right on. I think we need to go another year. And I've got a little bit of a different take. One of the things I see happening is there's a lot of elections coming up in November. And one of the key things with the state, anybody's property tax. Now, people could say, well, this doesn't affect it. Anytime you hear the word tax, anything that's associated with it gets a red flag. So I think by putting it off would probably help. I also think that the state will probably be looking real hard. I know I'm pushing on it, a couple things to have them take a serious look. Once you get that with the property tax at the top issue, I think things have an easier time to be completed or be pushed forward. I totally agree, as y'all know, I decided not to run for another thing. I was asked by Stacy Rogers out of Wichita to be ran with her for lieutenant governor. And people say I've lost my mind. Yeah, and you're probably right. But the reason I didn't do it, I was gonna do 4 more years, is because we can't keep going this way. You can't keep electing the same people and expect a different result. So by me running for that like that, even though we know it's a long shot and it's gonna be hard to do, I can still help Lebanon County because my name will be out there and I'll be all over the state. So that's one thing I'm looking for. I also do support getting the funding back in the stream for LCDC. Now, I'm only one person, and behind the scenes, I've done a lot of talking, trying to get things to happen. I think with some new county commissioners, look at it a little different, and the way that this board has went about doing it, and more information coming to the county commission and the new ones, I think there's a better opportunity to do it. Loveland County has to have an economic division somewhere. And whether you wanna call it this, you wanna call it something else, if you don't get it, then you're just hurting yourself. And this thing going back and forth about who should be on the board and who shouldn't be and things like that, no matter what side you're on, we have to get by that and start working together, get the funding back. Because I think if you voted on that today, I don't think you would pass, just my opinion. I think in a year or two, it may be, but you're gonna have 3 new county commissioners coming on. I've already had 2 or 3 of them hit me up to have lunch with them. And one of the things I'm gonna tell them is 2 things. Well, one of the major things I'm gonna tell them is you've got to get with LCDC and talk to that board and talk to them. And also I would ask y'all to be asking the questions. Do they support it? Do they even understand what this board does in the fight we've been trying to get through the last 2 or 3 years? I've come a long way in the way I look at it now because I think I wouldn't say I had some misinformation, but I looked at it a little different. I totally look at it at a new way now. I think this board is a must. I think the county has to help funding whichever way they do it is gonna be very important. So with the new county commissioners coming on, I would suggest very strongly y'all talk to them, but I agree that we should at least wait another year to see where we're at. Just my.
Here, I have a question.
Sure.
You can hear me okay? I'm curious to know for the 30,000 for the contract, what are the goals or the measurables as a result of that? Are we looking for a marketing plan or marketing materials? Is there a report that's going to come out of that? Or will they be doing more liaison type work to build more support for economic development in the county?
What we're looking for there is they put the campaign out there. We're looking for a vote and we were taking it to a vote that was not gonna be occurring during November cycle. If you think about it from a standpoint, as Mike brings up the idea of tax, that's just a negative right away. So we were looking for an off site or, off, the time vote. It was a vote, a write-in vote, essentially, a mail-in vote.
Mail-in.
The idea is we need so many people, so many votes to make that happen. So we're looking for the best opportunity to produce a vote or timing to produce that vote. And that's what they do, is they build that, they take that survey, and if we move the needle enough with the people who would potentially vote during that time. As you well know, when you vote on record in November, you get a lot of people show up to vote. But when you do these votes that are off that time, you don't have as many people voting. So if we can have more of the positive votes during off that time, we have a better chance of success. Does that make sense, Penny?
Yeah, I'm just looking for sort of the scope of work. It sounds like at this point, they will not be doing another survey. So we're looking for them to kind of do that public outreach. I'm asking if that's going to be in the form of written materials or if they'll be sort of getting out and doing some of that outreach work.
Oh, it would be more in the form of written materials and social media content.
Thanks, that's helpful. I appreciate it.
Let me say, wasn't 30,000 what we paid for?
Yeah.
And we're repeating the service and they're still charging us 30,000, but they're gonna be repeating the same thing they've already done, so why would the cost be that high?
Well, there are two things we're here. Once they're continuing with the education and they're focusing, they're getting better with the education based on the results they get. The second part is, and this is something we have to discuss as the boards and with LCDC's involvement. How do we want to respond to potentially the questions that are being asked? Right now, we're not. And do we go out and, I don't want to say start a fight or start, but basically answer the questions, whether they're good or bad, as board members or as members of LCDC board, do we want to start doing that? And that's what they're gonna tell us.
Would this 30,000 include them going and making contact with those questions and getting those questions back to people?
Sure.
Because that wasn't part of it before, was it?
The
Well,
survey was done separately. It was a different cost. It was 20,000.
Yeah.
So what- I guess what we're looking at is, do we, regardless of the fact, since we've decided we're not. And we talk about the idea of a vote, one of the things we have to present, ask for the vote, have to pay for the vote and everything like that for it to occur.
Right.
And that's why we were looking at this particular time frame. If we've made a decision that we're not going to, and according to Golden Shovel, they don't feel that the needle has moved enough and spend that money, then we should we continue the education campaign? We are making progress, but it's just not enough to reach out for an election at this point and be successful. So the question in front of this board, and we don't have to make the decision today, but next month we will have to make a decision. Are they changing the needle enough that we should continue with them, invest another 30,000? Just to keep changing minds in Leavenworth. And I think, as Mr. Smith says, Commissioner Smith says, this will be part of the election campaign. The various county commissioners are running for election. I think these questions will come up. So will all that tie in together? I'm sorry. Oh, Harlan. So I didn't see that.
I just had a question. I think I might have mentioned this a couple of months ago when we met. And maybe was what Penny was maybe trying to get to, but I'm a little concerned that effort hasn't actually damaged the organization. They've done a significant amount of social media presence that has gone just completely unanswered. And I think it's done damage to us. And I know that we shouldn't base our thoughts on just social media, but the bulk of that campaign has been generated in social media. The content's amazing, but nobody has countered any of the comments made in there. And I think it makes us look bad. So I would personally struggle to see the value in spending another $30,000 into that effort, because I don't think that Golden Shovel actually understands what we need. So
I concur with you, Harlan. I think that's one of the reasons I was asking is this part of answering the question that doesn't seem to be getting answered? And that was one of my main concerns too with that.
So my fear is you spend the money, November comes and you end up with a city commission that's gonna end up in a similar vote. I mean,
County
county commission. My thought is, what are we losing if we hold this marketing campaign to be contingent upon who's filling those 5 seats in November?
Nothing.
Well, I guess you're losing whatever momentum you have, but for $30,000, you might have a completely different feeling. Cause I'm agreeing with Mike here that, you don't know what's gonna happen. You might have people who are even more hostile to the idea, or you might have 5 or who are very much, ideally you have a number of people there who say, don't spend the money, we'll put it in the budget tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I just hate to spend the money when you might have a roadblock here in 9 months, 10 months that no amount of money is gonna overcome.
Right.
But I guess, and I agree with each one of you.
Yeah.
But with the, as was brought up in the meeting, last Friday, we're still gonna deal with elected officials now and forever. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way our system works. And what I was trying to do was take that away from their basket. So if we get a funding source here, via a mill levy or something, then we don't have to do this and have a fight with county commissioners and everything and be out their place. So yeah, no, there's no reason we can't hold it. Kevin, Golden Shovel has opened the window. They've started moving the needle. There's no reason if we have to redo this in November, we can start moving the needle again. But we don't have to make a decision today either.
Yeah.
We can all think about this in a month. And to Harlan's question, should we start answering those? And that was a question I brought up earlier. Should we take it upon ourselves to answer those questions? And I don't disagree. I think we should. The question is who should do it and everything like that. And I think we can answer those questions between now and next month when we would have to make a decision whether we move forward, go shovel or not. And once again, this sounds like an individual thing, but she and I are the only ones on those calls, and everybody's welcome to be part of that. You know, so
I understand that.
don't forgive us if we're not asking the right questions at the right time. We think so, but obviously we're not. So please, anybody can be part of that call, join us.
I tend to, I think that waiting the time, because elections are gonna play a big, because not just here, but the state. If they finally do something with property tax or some of these other mandates, and I think they're going to, because they're up for election. I think it's easier to ask the people to come and support something that's, you know, it's a user fee or whatever you wanna call it, still a tax. I just think it's easier to do that. Plus you have an idea of what you're up against. I think doing now, just throwing money away. I agree with what we've done. I just don't know if we wanna hurry down the road just yet.
Oh, I don't disagree. I will add this in there. We've been asked, the task, I guess. We've been asked to chair or to create a committee of all the port authorities in the state of Kansas, with us being one of the founding members, and they head that up. So there are other port authorities, most notably Stafford County, and there's 4 others that exist that aren't operational. They're inspired by the work that we've done here in Leavenworth County. So much so they've asked us. And remember, the Port Authority is a state statute, not a county statute.
Right.
I had an opportunity to sit down with Ty Masterson, the Senate President, to talk about that and look for state support, not just for us. What we do here at Leavenworth is great. What is done in Stafford County is great, but there are 105 counties in Kansas that can benefit from port authorities and port authority structure and what it does for their counties. In fact, we've been asked to perhaps chair that. It's a bit of a shock to us, but we're considering that as well.
As much work you put into it, I don't, well, that's not a surprise to me
Yeah.
whatsoever. I think anytime you put them together like that, that's stronger together.
Yeah, and we're looking, Jeff Clint supports it too,
Yeah, yeah.
local representative. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things where we're looking for, so we're looking for all avenues to keep us going. Mr. Russell again.
Yeah, I think the other problem that we have systemically, and we have constituency, and I think it's being put on just full stage with the discussion of star bonds. The average taxpayer does not understand any of the tools we're using, any of the tools we talk about. They truly don't know the difference between where their sales tax dollars go, where their property tax dollars go. I think we're going to figure it out really fast in March when the Lansing school bond goes to election, and we'll figure out, you know, if that has success or not. But in the bigger picture, going to the voters, I think in this present climate is just a no-go to ask people to support another tax increase. I mean, I was looking at my own property tax bill in Leavenworth County. It's gone up over 20% in 4 years. No, well, it's only 5% a year. Well, then come pay it for me. I think it's an uphill battle. I think within either the Port Authority or the Development Corporation, $30,000 can be spent much, much smarter. So I'm going to be quiet now.
Okay. But it's up to the board. I'm in favor of basically leaving it sit for another month. So let us percolate what the information we've got. Think about it. We don't have to make a decision for another month. We will have to address this in the next month's meeting. There's no question about that.
I think it's a good idea.
Golden Shovel. I don't think we have to have a vote on it or anything at this point. Golden Shovel is understands the situation, they understand where we are. And, we can move forward at that point, and they've been very helpful. In fact, this came up and we're able to move the needle at all, surprises me, but we've made progress, so. If there's any objection, we'll just leave that, we'll table this motion for the time, or table this for the time being.
Sure.
I'd
Okay.
be okay with that.
Yeah. Okay. Then moving on, affiliated partners, I guess. First of all, Nancy, Penny, anything to offer?
I'll defer to Penny.
Thank you, Mayor, and Chair. I just have a quick couple items. Public Works and I had the chance to meet with KDOT and the team working on the design project for K5 this week. I think they're going back around and touching base with some of the cities and counties that are impacted. So we're looking forward to the public meeting. I understand those will be scheduled in February in Lansing. So keeping an eye on the K5 and that important project. And then just want to encourage everyone to be safe this week. Potentially some dangerously low temperatures. I see Friday at least, possibly with some snow. So appreciate Leavenworth County Emergency Management and everyone's efforts to just keep an eye on the weather and be safe.
Thanks, Penny. George, you still out there?
Yeah, thanks. Just a couple updates on some big infrastructure projects. We have Crosslink Construction as our contractor for doubling the daily capacity at our wastewater treatment plant, and they've mobilized and are getting that project underway. So it's pretty exciting for us, or at least as exciting as wastewater treatment plant expansion projects go. We've also started design work with BG Consulting, which is the city's on-call engineering firm for that 14th Street corridor. So again, for us, that makes a connection at 2440. 14th Street would then run east to a road called East Street that is over by the middle school and elementary school, grade school campus. That opens up 300-ish acres of ground for development that's owned again by about 4 or 5 different entities, including the school district. Other than the school district, every owner has already been engaged in some level of pre-development or development discussion. So we're excited to see something happen there. The city will take some action steps to create a benefit district to recoup some of the costs for that area. And then the last one is another big street project, Front Street. It's a connection for us just east of 2440. It's a connector that's been lacking sidewalks. And so this is kind of closing out, adding to the city's trail system, but really fills in a portion of our sidewalks ultimately that connect to the downtown. But this particular stretch will connect over to the new dog park. And so we're excited to fill that in. Otherwise, from a development standpoint, kind of piggyback to what Lisa said, we've just seen an uptick in interest and activity. So we'll see what the year holds. With that, thank you.
Thanks, George. Sherry, anything to offer from Baser?
Yeah, thank you. Well, the Baser Mayor State of the City address is gonna be on Tuesday, March 10th. That'll be out at Falcon Lakes. Tickets will be available soon to purchase. Just watch the city's social media or their website. This is always a well-attended event. It highlights all the things that we've accomplished in the year. And also, it'll be an eye on the horizon for what's coming in the future. Our building permit activity ended very strong in 2025. 99 residential permits issued, 7 multifamily permits issued. 2026 is already off to a great start. 2025 is the 3rd year in a row that our building permit activity exceeded our forecasts. And we think that 2026 will probably have the same trajectory. We recently approved the city's legislative platform for 2026, which includes support for capping property value increases for the purpose of taxation. The Baser City Administrator and the Baser Deputy City Administrator were invited to testify in person by Chairperson Senator Karen Tyson. So they were up at Topeka last week. The voter approved sales tax for street improvements was approved. And this special sales tax will start on April 1st of 2026. Also, we're setting our calendars for the 2026 Parks and Rec activities. We will continue to have our Cinema Sundays, third Thursday concerts, and Art in the Park. We're also going to be adding an Adults Night Out event and also a fishing derby at our new fishing pond that just recently opened. And then our large roadway project at 158th Street in Parallel is under winter shutdown. It's currently open to the motoring public, but construction will resume in the spring once the weather improves. And the project is expected to be completed this summer 2026. And that's all I have for this time.
Thank you, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
That was easier said than done, wasn't it?
Thank you.
Josh, you kind of snuck in.
I did, sorry for being late.
Yeah.
Let's see, we have our CIP work session on Thursday nights. My split bar will be leading that. We approved CID and have worked up on. No, approved the sale of town center property for a 70,000 square foot junior box development with a number of pad sites on that project as well. Working on some other projects in town center, details to be forthcoming. And then personally, I'm excited about our comprehensive plan. We're working on a new comprehensive plan for this year. Confluence is our partner on that. They're gonna be taking that, so you guys will be getting information regarding meetings and, opportunities to attend and give feedback in the future. So that is what is going on in that side.
Mike? And or Bill?
Do you want to talk about some grants or something?
Yeah, I can talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I know I sent out an email to a lot of the people here, but the county did receive a Safe Streets for All implementation grant there right before Christmas. And so that is a $23.8 million grant. If you combine the city or the county's grant from the Federal Highway Department, and then we also got Build Kansas funds for our 20% match. Those funds are set aside funds that were legislatively set aside for communities to apply for, and you can apply for those before you apply for federal funding. And then if you get your federal funding, they do cover the 20% match. So the improvements will be a roundabout at County Route 1 and K32. And then safety improvements at County Route 1 from K32 south to the bridge over the Kansas River. And then 158th Street, County Route 2 is already has a roundabout being designed by KDOT for construction. So we will pick up from their new roundabout at County Route 2 and then continue south on 158th Street with shoulder safety improvements down to Golden Road, and then Golden Road back out to K32 through that entire loop. And so we're super excited about that. That's we were one of 36 communities in the United States that was either rural or tribal to receive that implementation grant. And so we'll be moving through that process very slowly, I'm sure. I believe it will be probably a 5-year process, more than likely, before we're really into construction. For probably 4 years of planning, and then maybe that 5th year will be in construction. The county cost for this project will be limited to acquisition and utility relocations for those shoulder expansions through the corridor, where it will look very much like the safety improvements that were made to Tonganoxie Drive, where you add those shoulders and remove the drop offs. And so we're super excited about that project moving forward. And be happy to answer any questions or anything anybody has on that. I'd say that one of the main things that set us aside was we had great support. I know that the Port Authority and the LCDC signed letters of support, but we also had support from both U.S. senators, both U.S. representatives, all of the state senators and U.S. representatives for this area, all of the cities that would be impacted, the school districts, Hills Pet Food, the city of DeSoto, the city of Eudora, And so we had like 25 total letters of support, approximately. But we had very good letters of support. Sharice Davids, who actually serves on the Transportation Committee, who I believe selects these projects, signed a letter of support. And we used the justification of a corridor between areas up north in the Kansas City, Kansas Community College and the DeSoto battery factory with training in that area. So we had a lot of support for the project. It will reduce fatalities. I don't have those numbers in front of me here today, but I believe there were 6 fatalities in the past 4 years on these roadways. The total number of crashes is what I don't specifically remember, but I believe it was 100. I want to say 137 total wrecks over the past 4 years that resulted in well over $100 million worth of property damage in hospital bills. And so there will be an economic impact just from that reduction in both the hospital costs and everything associated with an accident. Other than that, been in talks with KDOT a lot. I know this will affect greatly. I don't know if Penny is aware yet, or maybe they've been in talks with KDOT as well. But there is upcoming closure of 20th Street and Spruce there at Casey's that will begin in May. And it'll have a 4-month long impact road closure of that intersection where they are wanting to reroute some traffic onto a county roadway, 179th and 183rd Street. But that's a pretty substantial closure for an extended period of time through that intersection. So anybody who has any thing that's associated with that corridor, I believe Lecompton Road, cutting over to 20th Street, will get used greatly, but with the 2 90-degree curves in that road, it won't accommodate any large traffic. And I was looking last week, and I believe 92 highway averages 115 semis a day, large commercial traffic. So there'll be a lot of traffic going north and then coming back through the city or diverting south somewhere. I'm not 100% sure how they would get south. We do have 235th Street still closed. That project is ongoing here in the county. And so they will need to almost go back through McLeod if they wanted to go south and not come north through the city to get back to Tonganoxie. And so that's pretty substantial impact. Penny did mention we did all the communities met with KDOT and Kinley Horn last week, and they are setting up some a couple public open houses for those projects where they're going to further discuss some alignments. It doesn't sound to me like they've solidified what their scope is going to be at this point yet. I think they are at least leaning on a 55-mile-an-hour corridor south of McIntyre. But it was very unclear what their plans north of McIntyre were at this time. They seem to be still working through the process. Penny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that those public open houses we're going to be at the Lansing City Hall.
That's correct, and I see Josh nodding as well.
Yeah. So the official date of that will be announced shortly. I believe it's near the end of February. I have plenty of time to plan for that. Does anybody have any project questions or concerns of upcoming?
One thing I'd like to add, having been part of this time, more so than the last time, it's so important that the county gather around these projects, because that makes the biggest difference with the state, is when everybody coalesces around these projects, that's when you stand a better chance of getting the funding approved, right?
Yes.
We can't emphasize that enough, that you do that all the time, you don't get credit for that, but it's important that everybody coalesce, all the cities, regardless of whether it may benefit them initially.
That's right.
It benefits the whole county, and that's what's important to the state. They're not gonna fight local battles for us. Is that precise?
Yeah, they're not going to, and they look for pretty well unanimous support for projects. They want, they do not want to come into a community and spend money when it appears that there's not an agreement on what the next project up is. So, and the issue is, even if it's not a project that's going to directly benefit a single community, you know, like K7 corridor improvement, more specifically, help George and the city of Tonganoxie out, but until that improvement is made, they may not want to fund K-16 going west of Tonganoxie. And so that we have to get through projects and get one done, even if we're going to move on to another one, whether that's at 24, I know the city of Baser had 24 highway in mind. And so you have to systematically move forward on those projects. And I think another thing that will come up in the spring is an update that it was discussed by Greg Cause at the end of last year, an update to our CIP. I think we should take a look at that possibly after they announce the transportation projects on the upcoming cycle. And keep that plan up to date, but I anticipate with the political climate and everybody running for office, they'll use that project announcement as part of some sort of race initiative, but I would say by May, we should hear what those ag transportation projects are.
Is there anybody that I have missed now that would like to speak up at this point? If not, I wonder, Brian, did you want to say anything?
One thing, a lot of good things happen. I mean, from all the cities and the counties. One thing I was gonna mention on with Bill, when I came on a few years ago, we changed some department heads, and one of them was Bill. One of them, we brought in John Jackson, HR, we brought in Monica. And I've always looked at the sheets every month on housing, what's going on, because I always like to compare the base of how we're doing. And the last 3 or 4 years, there have been a lot of homes being built out in the county. And that just helps everybody, like Bill said. But then I know Lansing's got some big projects going on up Tommy. Baser's always got something going on. So, this is just good stuff. It's just good stuff going on for the entire county. So,
With that, I will entertain a motion.
second.
Hi.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, see you next month.
Thank you. Bye, Chris.
17.